Chomsky, the
Yes, the
Rules for
linguist.
Radicals. Rules for Radicals. I have his book over here. Yeah, it's in my book. Yeah.
And Lawrence Krauss, they said that Christianity launched the Dark Ages. And that is one of their complaints, that the Dark Ages came when Christians took over the power from the Roman rulers. When the Constantine became a Christian emperor, then started the real Dark Ages for the Western civilization. And how do you answer that critic?
Well, this is not. I'm not a student of the classics or a subsequent period of time. It sounds to me like this is. People say all kinds of things about Constantine and about the Dark Ages and about the Crusades. And that's because I've been spending too much time on the internet and not looking in real history books. Okay. Constantine did not make the world Christian. Up until the time of Constantine, Christianity was illegal. And therefore, if you are Christian, you are persecuted. And not much before within, I mean, I'm trying to think of the emperors that led up to Constantine, but they all persecuted Christians. And just prior to Constantine, Christians were still being killed. All Constantine did was make Christianity legal. He didn't make it the religion of the realm. He made it legal. Now, he became a Christian himself, apparently, of some sort, but that doesn't mean that he forced other people to be Christians and then politicized the whole thing. That was 325 the early 4th century. The so-called Dark Ages didn't start for hundreds of years after that. Okay, and the Dark Ages weren't as dark as a lot of people thought. When you look at them, what made them dark, and then what brought the so-called light back again? The barbarian hordes destroyed a lot. But it's interesting. There's a book called How the Irish Saved Civilization, and I can't remember the name of the author, but the whole point of the book was that it turns out historically it was Christians that saved all classic works of literature. Muslims did too in their libraries, but Christians did in the West. And they saved all these wonderful things. The Muslims didn't come up till the end of the first millennium. But before that, Christians saved the works to keep civilization alive. And so this idea about what Constantine did and Dark Ages and all of that, most people have their information just wrong about the history. Okay, was it primitive? Was it a feudal society? Yeah, that was. By looking back nowadays with our views about democracy and freedom and republics and all of that, sure, we're much more enlightened now. But it's easy to read our enlightenment into the past and say, boy, look, they were really bad. And we're this kind of like what C.S. Lewis called a historical snobbery. And
chronological snobbery.
Pardon me?
I think chronological snobbery.
Yes, that's it. There you go. Thank you for that correction. Chronological snobbery. But when you see the gospel going forth, you see things being transformed. All right. It was Christians, who were responsible for the entire world being literate. A lot of people don't know this, but Christianity made the world literate. How did it do that? Because missionaries went at great threat to themselves to spread the gospel. This is long before travel was safe and these other countries were safe, and many of them died right away. But when they went to spread the gospel, they spread the gospel with the word of God, and the word of God doesn't work in a community very well in a community where there are no words, no written words. And so they had to teach people how to read and how to write, and they had to teach them how to take their language and put it in writing, and then they could understand the Bible. And this is what made the world literate. If you think back even 150 or 200 years ago in the United States, the school books that people used to teach the kids reading all were spiritual books, and with a goal to help read the Bible. So the influence of Christianity. This is the title of one of the books that behind me there is called "Under the Influence." Under the Influence, and it explains how the influence of Christianity civilized the world.
I completely agree with that. I mean, in the first 110 colleges and universities established in the United States, 100 were started by Christian missions.
That's right. They were meant to teach theology and train pastors. And of course, they weren't just training them in theology, they were training them in the classics, in Latin, and in Greek, and in physics, and in calculus, and geometry, and all of these different things. And so you're right. The just about all of the first 100, all of the Ivy League schools, certainly, were founded with that purpose. And so there's another example of Christianity making the world literate and bringing great changes to the world that other religious views just weren't going to bring.
Yes, even during this COVID-19 fight, if you look at these medical centers like in New York City, New York Presbyterian, New York Methodist,
that's right.
All these medical centers were established by Christians.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah, I can also make a personal connection. My dad, when he became a Christian, he started a school in India.
Interesting.
Yes, like thousands of people, Hindus, Muslims, and Christians, they got their education in this school my dad established, and he did that because of his Christian faith.
Right. Well, good for you. Good for you. Good for your dad.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes.